engineered solutions. And engineered solutions is a mixture of similarly produced methodology is used to make an electrode for things like production of photovoltaic. So in every polycrystalline silicon ingot manufacturing process, or the vast majority, you have heating elements. Think of it as the entire inner workings of the furnace for a polycrystalline silicon furnace is using graphite. It's also used for molds. It's used to make casts and a whole variety of other supporting high temperature heat treating industrial applications. So I would just categorize that as roughly engineered solutions or specialty high temperature applications. And then the third element is of significance is the energy storage space, where they're taking needle coke and turning it into spherical graphite that is used for manufacture of lithium-ion batteries.
Yeah, for electric vehicles. Okay.
Electric vehicles. And then the only thing I would put a note on is on that last portion, the synthetic graphite, because I think I would go back and just create a distinction. When you're thinking about needle coke, there's really two major elements of the world in terms of graphite. And the first is synthetic
natural
graphite.
and synthetic.
Yes, and so as you think about lithium-ion batteries, there's significant substitution between natural and synthetic.
The question, sorry, to go back on the first part, that's the interesting part for us. What's the difference between the carbon and the graphite electrodes?
So it's just a phase distinction. So carbonization has less molecular uniformity than the graphitized phase. So when you carbonize a graphite electrode, you're not treating it to temperatures as high as you are for graphitization. In carbonization phase, you have heat treatment up to roughly 800 degrees F to 1,000 degrees F. In the graphitization phase, you're going above 3,000 degrees C. And so the differences are really end-use application. Obviously, the graphitized version is the desired
electric arc furnaces. So graphitized electrodes will go for, correct me if I'm wrong, an electric arc furnace. What would be the use of a carbon electrode?
They can be used as cathodes. They can be used as low temperature electrode applications for low voltage, etc.
Oh, okay. And the cathodes are these the cathodes that you which type of, is it the cathodes that you use in a smelting process for aluminum or?
Correct. Absolutely right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Understood. And what else, sorry, you said before? I missed that point.
Oh, all I was saying is about natural graphite substituting for EVs, but that's
okay.
it.
Okay.
So then let's talk about the last element in our supply chain diagram. So obviously, there's a big consumption story with regards to steel and steel manufacture, and then the growth of EAF. We can talk about that. I'm sure you're aware of that, and specifically the growth relative to, let's just call it 42% plus or minus of global steel less China, moving to 50% global production percentages using the EAF processes, and then China moving from roughly 6 to 7% to possibly as high as 30 to 35% by 2035. So these two compounding trends are obviously making at least a lot of noise on the relative growth projections for the electrode market. On the other side of the equation for solar, obviously solar is going through the same boom. There's a similar arena with regards to oil and gas and titanium drill bit manufacture, which uses molds for graphite production, and then the explosion, if you will, for energy storage, both in the electric vehicle space and elsewhere.
Understood. And sorry, on the carbon electrodes, who are the main, I know the graphite electrodes, I know the main producers mainly, but for the carbon electrodes, who are the main producers globally?
Yeah, so the largest, and it depends on who amount of sulfur found in the fuel stocks for seagoing vessels, and all of this together has basically created a crunch on the ultimate feedstock to manufacture material for the aluminum industry.
Okay.
I do know that. There's a number of really good reports out there. Actually, if you send me an email, I can send you one. I'm sorry, that's just not my focus. But there's a great report on the significance of an impending supply crunch, where some folks did a pretty big ancillary study to the carbon and graphite business, except focused on the aluminum industry, and I'm happy to give you that reference.
Okay. So, I mean, I understand, but then the carbon electrode is so used as a supply for cathodes, and do you know who are the main producers? I know it's not your area of focus, but do you know who are the producers globally?
Can you repeat that again?
Do you know who are the producers globally? I know it's not your area of focus for cathodes solution.
Yeah, they're really they're really the same players that are producing the carbon and graphite electrodes. That same mix.
Okay. So GrafTech produces cathodes for the aluminum industry, for example.
Right.
Or Showa Denko.
Yeah, the only difference in that is that you've got kind of a couple of different applications. I understand you've got a carburizer, but you also have the cathodes themselves. So, the that are cathode kind of folks. That's not my focus.
You're breaking up. Last point, we missed it.
So there's a lot of experts out there that you can speak to. I just don't
Okay.
want to steer you in the wrong direction.
Okay, no worries. Understood. And do you know a furnace? I mean, do you cover, or is it the area of expertise, the furnace linings for blast furnaces?
No.
Is something no.
No, that's definitely not me. We have a separate division that was focused on that area, and I just never really spent any time on. I obviously understand the materials, but we actually sold that business, GrafTech specifically, and began to exit non-primary EAF facing component markets.
Do you remember who you sold it to? Sorry, maybe I can check it online.
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
No worries.
You can easily find that information.
Yeah.
It's been publicly disclosed GrafTech SEC documents.
Okay. No, I mean, it's fine. I mean, our focus is more to understand the carbon electrodes, the cathodes, and some of the furnace linings. That's what I'm after. Graphite electrodes, we know it quite okay. It's just there's these niches that we're trying to understand.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there'd be a good source for you to dig into.
Because none of the companies actually report this sub of a subdivision. That's why we have very little information out there.
Yeah, they're all embedded in in their electrode numbers, because that's how we reported our business. They weren't included in specialties and at GrafTech, and they certainly weren't included in specialties for SGL, and they certainly aren't included for Showa Denko or others. They were just a very small, less than $100 million business, even less than $50 million business within the electrode business itself, and it was, they just weren't a very important, from a revenue standpoint, component, and a margin standpoint. They were really almost more confusing to operate and manage.
Do you know roughly what's the margin for these businesses, give or take, rough estimate?
Profit margin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
an
less
EBITDA?